This podcast is brought to you by Craft Beer and Brewing Magazine for those that love to make and drink great beer. To learn more or to subscribe, visit beerandbrewing.com or find us on social media at Craft Beer Brew. It's the episode of the Craft Beer and Brewing podcast that you all have been waiting for all year. That's right. It is the annual Best in Beer episode where we recount what we have determined to be the best in craft beer from around the world in 2025. Joe Stang, welcome back to the podcast.
Thanks, Jamie. Awesome to be back, as always.
As always, we've had some fun trips around the world this year. We had a really great time down in New Zealand together and, with a bunch of folks for Hop Harvest. We had some good times in the Pacific Northwest. And then, of course, came from the Pacific Northwest right back here to the office in Fort Collins and jumped right into our Best in Beer tasting. Of course, we brought in Stan Hieronymus and Kate Bernat as well for that, just so that it's not just us. They've got some awesome palates and some great experience that they bring to bear to all of this too. And so anyway, through the course of this, with that group of folks, we went through the top scorers of the past year in Craft Beer and Brewing Magazine, those beers that brewers have sent to us for review. We looked at all the things that our blind panel scored highest through the year. And then of course the ones we couldn't get because they were seasonal, we still kept them in the conversation. We tasted as much as we can, tasted probably at least more than half of again, all of those top scores throughout the year. Tasted a bunch of wild card submissions that brewers sent in just for the Best in Beer issue because, of course, it aligns nicely with the Great American Beer Festival submission deadlines. And of course, our deadline was the same Friday of that same week. And so it was great. If brewers out there brew those competition batches of their beers, sometimes that is a great thing to also send to us at Craft Beer and Brewing for wild card submissions. Anyway, throughout that, we tasted all of those over a couple of days here in the office. We determined our editor's picks for the best 20 beers in 25. That's what we're going to cover today. But at the same time, in September, we threw out a reader survey and surveyed all of you as to what your favorite beers, your favorite breweries were across the entire broad world of craft beer. And I will tell you, Joe, there were some shocking results, some serious upsets, and I think people are going to be amazed when they see what our readers came back with on these. And that is just my shameless internet style real plug. Can you believe what they even said?
I love it. I think the surprises are like little Christmas presents. And this issue and this podcast for us, most people, I guess, are listening to this in November initially. So they're thinking about Thanksgiving. But for us, this issue and this podcast are like our Christmas and New Year's rolled into one. It's the end of our year. It's a culmination of 4 seasons, 4 issues. This is our winter issue, and this is kind of when our year in beer starts all over again after this. So there's little surprises there's always surprises in the best 20, right? But in the reader's choice, it's boring if those lists are the same every year. So I like a little, let's change it up and let's have some surprises.
The craft beer world is dynamic, and I think our reader survey this year proves it. Cannot wait to get into that, but we're going to make you wait. And we're going to cover our first. The first part of this podcast is going to be our best 20 beers in 25. We're going to go through that. The cool thing about this is this episode, this issue of the magazine. This lets us do the thing that we love doing the most, and that is talking about what is great in craft beer. There are certainly some challenges out there in the business of craft beer this year, last year. There's some headwinds, there's no doubt about it. Brewers, people are drinking a little bit less. There's some challenges around the business out there. But one thing is true, beer now in 2025, today when we're recording this, is better than it has ever been in the history of beer. The quality of the beer, the number of brewers making truly awesome beer, the number of brewers that care and that are continuing to focus on making better beer, and the amount of information information that brewers have access to in such a wide way. It is what we've devoted our careers to doing here at Craft Beer and Brewing. And, and so seeing that in fruition in these great, incredible beers that brewers are making and then sending to us out here for review, it is literally the best thing in the world. I love it. I love it. I love it. Of course, if you're a brewer wondering how you can send us beer for review and for consideration and things like this annual Best in Beer issue, go to beerandbrewing.com, scroll down to the page footer, click on the Help Center link. We've got a Help Center article there on how to get your beer reviewed in Craft Beer and Brewing magazine. It's got the editorial calendar, deadlines, shipping info, all that kind of stuff. Our next issue deadline is December 12th. That's for our malt-focused issue. Submissions are open now. If you're an all-access subscriber to Craft Beer and Brewing, you can just go ahead and send us those things. And you can send, I think, 3 or 4 beers per issue for us to review at no charge if you're an all-access subscriber. So, that's what we love to do for all of you. And, get out there, send us some more. The coolest thing is having broad, diverse submissions from all over, from brewers everywhere in the world, everywhere in North America, but also all around the place. And I think that's certainly a theme for us this year, focusing on this big, broad world of craft beer and the awesomeness that's everywhere. But I could go on forever. It's time for the main event. The digital issue for the Best in Beer issue has gone out and has been emailed to subscribers as this all at the same time with this episode. Print copies are scheduled to arrive, I think, within the next week. Next Friday, we're going to drop our Critics List podcast. That's another part of the Best in Beer issue where all of us, Joe, me, Stan, Kate, Matt Curtis, Alex Kidd, all write our personal lists of best beers of the year that might not be this collective list of best, but that speak to certain particular experiences that we have had with those beers. And of course, so when Joe and Kate and Stan were all here in the office for our Best in Beer tasting, we wrapped it all up by recording that episode in September with their lists and their favorite beers. And so you get to hear what Joe's personal list is for the year. There's some,
I love recording that. I love recording that
Yeah.
episode. So it's just, it's really great to sort of do that round robin with them and dig into sort of all the great memories from the past year and great things we had. So it's cool. It's
but
awesome.
I'm drinking one of the beers that was on your personal list this year, but I won't tell anyone. I guess it's out there in the issue, but I'll have to go read it until they listen next week. Anyway, before we get into the winners in each of the categories and talk about our editor's picks for the top 20 beers of 2025, if you're looking for a brewery chiller that's worry-free and tough on GWP, then look no further. G&D Chiller's Elite 290 Series chiller uses propane as a natural refrigerant with extremely low global warming potential. This natural, highly efficient refrigerant with near zero GWP will help lower your facility's energy cost and impact on the environment. They're committed to a greener, more efficient future. Visit gdchillers.com to learn more. Also, Berkeley Yeast just launched Dry Tropics London, their best-selling yeast strain now with the ease of use benefits of dry yeast. Dry Tropics London delivers the soft, pillowy mouthfeel and juicy character you'd expect from a top-tier London ale strain, but with a serious upgrade, a burst of thiols that unleash vibrant, layered notes of grapefruit and passion fruit. A lot of brewers love the clean passion fruit you get from Tropics, but they don't want every IPA to be a tropical fruit bomb. At the dry yeast price point, you can pitch and ditch without breaking the bank, or you can co-pitch with your house strain to adjust the intensity of the notes. And with nationwide free shipping, there's never been a better time to try Dry Tropics. Order now at berkeleyyeast.com and experience the ease and impact of Dry Tropics London yeast. And every beer menu could use a refresh button on the fruit flavors. That's why it's time to revisit Old Orchard's flavored craft juice concentrate blends, where the latest additions include fruit punch, guava, kiwi, and pomegranate. They aren't stopping there and welcome flavor suggestions from the brewing industry. More information and free samples are waiting at oldorchard.com/brewer. That's oldorchard.com/brewer. All right, Joe, talk a little bit about our editor's picks methodology and the way that our blind panel reviews beer going into this. I think it's good to revisit that every year, just so people understand the work that we put into this to do these reviews blind and to do them fairly, so that everyone has a shot based on the merit of what's in the glass.
Yeah, well, there's the bulk of these are beers that are blind review panel judged earlier this year and became top scorers, high scorers. So that's sort of like
14 of the top 20 were high scorers throughout the year in our various issues. We view these issues every issue as basically that's your first round, right? And then they go to the best in show round for the best in beer issue, and there's some wild card entries for the best best in show round, and then we do accept those, but it is definitely focused on those top scorers.
Yep. Yeah. Brewers have a chance to send other beers to the best in beer table, right? To the final table. And there's some screening that goes on, of course, too. But there's basically our judges have pre-screened things earlier in the year. So we're only dealing with great beers. It's like the easiest judging job you can imagine in a way, because we're totally spoiled. It's like a 2-day Willy Wonka ride of flavor. Like you were talking about quality earlier, beer's never been better. Well, not only is that true, but also the blind judging earlier has taken care of a lot of that for us. So we know we're going to get, 100 something, depends on the year, right? But we're going to get a whole bunch of great beers to taste over for 2 days, all blind. The editors and writers at this table, we don't know what we're tasting. And unlike, say, the judges at GABF or World Beer Cup, we also are not judging by style. So it's really a whole flavor ride that we're on. And I'm not just talking about big flavor, but also balance, elegance, and nuance and complexity, and picking all these things apart and getting to talk about it. It is so much fun with all the variety that comes in. And there's just, all those beers are really good. And we get to take ourselves up to this higher level of what is exceptional, what is sublime, what is transporting us to this other place and lighting up our brains. It's super fun.
Yeah, I think we probably go through, probably 1,600-ish beers per year submitted to the magazine for various things. And then, of course, of those, a certain number actually make it into the scored reviews. Usually we'll score, 200, 220 this year. Our review coordinator, Paul, has been really stepping things up and able to get more review sessions in for each issue. And so then you consider that we're about, 800 to 900 beers over the course of the year. Of those 1,600 that are shipped to us, about 800 to 900 of those get actual scores in the magazine, or get actually scored, and they don't all make the magazine because we have a 85-point cutoff for scores, and we're not out here to throw people under the bus. We're here to celebrate what's great. And so then we look at all of those beers that have of those 800 to 900 that we've scored, and the very best of those get into this best in beer tasting. I think over those 2 days, Joe, we probably tasted about 130-ish beers, and I would say about 80 or 90 of those were, or maybe 80-ish of the, about half and half were those top scorers from throughout the year, and the other half were wild card entries where we went through and tasted again and made sure that we pushed through it, because with those wild card entries, there's a pretty easy binary of, hey, is this better than our top scorer? And if it's not even close, then it just gets knocked out. And so anyway, there were some awesome beers that came through that wild card process, and like I said, there are 6 beers in our beers of the year this year that did get into the whole into our top 20 through that whole process. But of course, the best way to do it is to do it through the regular issue submissions. So if you are a brewer out there, send us beer for one of the focused issues, and then send us everything else for that wild card issue. I think that's the methodology, Joe. Did I miss anything?
I would just say, if you're a brewer listening to this right now and wondering how you get in on this, go to our website, look for the Help Center page, and it's got all the details that you need. Read through it all. If you got any questions, just hit us up. But I mean, every issue we've, whatever, not quite 10,000 breweries in the United States these days. And you don't have to be in the United States to submit either, by the way. every issue we've got breweries I've never heard of. I mean, we know a lot of breweries, and there's still going to be new names coming in, and your brewery could be one of those new names, and you got to play to win, as they say. So we love seeing new names pop up in there and get in there, and that's you can make your name. Send us some beer.
You know what else I love, Joe? I love to go into GABF this year after we had already locked in our top 20 and having conversations with brewers. And of course, I knew who we had already tapped, and it was nice. I met some new brewers who I had never met before, but I knew that they were in our best beers of 2025, and was able to have some conversations and connect and learn more about them, and I built some context out there. But then, of course, we had some really amazing notes. I watched the GABF awards ceremony with Stan Hieronymus, and of course, when we saw winners come up in those medals that we had already put into our 20 beers of 2025, it was awesome confirmation. We'll talk about what some of those specific ones are, but let's just start talking about our top 20 beers. And what's the first one on this? These are not ranked in any particular order. We're just going to list them off in a particular order so that we can keep track of them and not forget them. Joe, start us off.
Right. Well, the first beer we're going to talk about from our best 20 is Cape May Light out of Cape May, New Jersey. And this beer has only 99 calories, which is obviously why we chose it. Right? No, we didn't know that. That's not how we do things.
Because it's less filling? Yeah.
That is not how we do things. I mean, that's amazing that it has, that it's so light. It's 4.2% ABV. One of the most exciting things to me about the lager renaissance, I guess, the craft lager renaissance of the past several, 4 or 5 years or whatever, is just how good light lager can get and how good it's getting as the brewers out there apply their creative minds to this style that should be, I want to be zooming down the lake on a boat and the wind blows my hat off and I don't even care because I've got this really cold beer that I can just drink and I don't even think about it. There's not it doesn't have to be, a light lager doesn't have to be bland, and it doesn't there's a whole lot of room between that and packed with flavor, and you don't have to be either one. So there's nice flavor going into these, like this Cape May Light, which has got, Kate was getting like cornflakes and citrus. I was getting lime rice and a tortilla kind of stuff. We're Americans. We love citrus. So like a little bit of citrus without it being a fruity beer. Fine bitterness and really nice like dryness to finish out the sip. It's got a nice roundness too. So it tastes bigger than 4.2, but still drinks really easily. Delicious. It's kind of fun to kick this off with a light lager too, but that's Cape May Light. Great beer.
Fun story about that one. After they scored so highly in the lager issue, they were telling Paul, review coordinator Paul Hutchings, that they decided to enter it into GABF because they did so well in the lager issue. And then they came away with a bronze medal at GABF for this beer.
Nice.
So, hey, there you go. Next up on our list of best 20 beers in 2025 is a brewery that is no stranger to this list. I think this is their third time showing up on this list. This one, unlike last year they got into the list with a wild card entry that we just couldn't deny. The brewery's Pint House. This beer is Gold Steps. This one went into our IPA issue. It's a session IPA. It's in that 4% range. Hazy IPA. Absolutely insane. Scored a 99. And I can't say enough about this beer, the way that it captures all of that hazy, juicy character to it. These nice, fruit notes, but does it in this smaller and still dry finishing package. It really just knocked everybody out. Like everyone on the panel wanted to keep drinking it. And when I tasted it, I pull in some of those classic New Zealand notes, that little ginger crisp, that lime, a little bit of mimosa, lemon cake, berries, all of this kind of like almost like a vanilla tinged suspension to it. And yet it still finishes dry. So to capture all of that in this small and drinkable 4% package, totally incredible. Apparently that's the first recipe that one of their new brewers, Ryan Elam, designed for them. He came from Other Half. And anyway, that was the first beer they let him brew, and it's just an absolute stunner. But of course, last year, Mosaic Takedown, the rest of the team, Trevor, Jacob, Tom, all of those guys, just what a bench that they've got. I mean, we talk about Joe Morfeld because Joe's incredible, great person, insanely smart brewer. But I mean, they've got, 4 or 5 brewers at that brewery that are all just operating at world-class level. And the team together is just crazy good. Anyway, super stoked on that. What's number 3, Joe?
Yeah, I love talking about this brewery out of Tulsa, Oklahoma, American Solera. And because of just the breadth of what they do, these guys have fun with flavor. This is I think of them as the brewery that brought us the barrel aged pumpkin seltzer. Also, I remember a few years ago they had that Laurel Kolsch. I just love that beer. And then they were here 5 years ago for that spontaneously fermented Cool Ship Road Trip collab with Jester King. So in here we got again something. I mean, they make some like grapefruit beers and stuff too. So they do a bit of everything. And this time though we're talking about a bourbon barrel aged stout. 40 months in Heaven Hill barrels. Heaven Hill weeded bourbon barrels for if you need to know the exact type of bourbon. We don't really care what kind of bourbon, what kind of barrel it is. The beer was delicious and we just kept going back to it. I like in case, I don't know, we sometimes run out of maybe chocolate analogies with these things, but I was getting like a Belgian praline or bonbon with some prune and cherry in there, a little toasted walnut, like dusted in dark cocoa, and then of course injected with a bit of whiskey there. But the real fun was like we were going back and getting more and more, a little bit of toasted marshmallow, huckleberry, somebody got, maybe that was K, a little wisp of tobacco in there. And so we were just finding more the more we went back, and there was nothing about it that prevented us from doing that. It wasn't cloying, it wasn't harsh in any way. It was just pleasant to explore and talk about, and that's what we did. So that was super fun, and it earned its way here into our best 20 of the year.
That is a sweet, sweet beer, a thick and sweet beer, and yet they find that flavor balance in it that makes it work. Absolutely phenomenal. What a great beer. Next up on our list, Wayward Lane Terraform Fresh Hop Edition 2025. This was obviously a wild card entry for the issue because it's a fresh hop 2025 beer. And of course, those fresh hop beers, those fest beers, those seasonal things are great beers to send to us in September. Of course, you're going to send us one in early September, then it's got to be I don't know where the fresh hops are going to have to come from. Very early harvester for that. And of course, I think this one was Strata in order to make that time work. And of course it is. Of course it is. Anyway, this beer is outside of Albany in New York State. And I thought we weren't considering that, actually, that we didn't consider the location when we were thinking about this. We were simply tasting this beer blind. And so, but as we tasted it, notes of things like spicy melon, mango salad, definitely some flavors that are evoke your last gig in Bangkok, Thailand, Joe. Some of those big, fun, fruity, but also spicy characters, berry, stone fruit, little clean petrol, white scallion, a little bit of old school pine. And, and just as that, juicier stuff starts to feel too saturated, like if that kind of pithiness pops in and pulls it back around, even like a note of just a tad bit of astringency, which we usually think of in a negative term. But I think in this case, like it was perfect to just pull back with a little bit of balance in that. These guys are 3,000 miles away from the farm that grew that Strata. And yet this is a fresh hop beer that was our favorite of this year. Kudos to Wayward Lane on that. What's next, Joe?
Yeah, well, we're going to stay in an IPA zone, but this time we're going for a cold IPA out of Denver with Access Request by Cerebral. And man, I really enjoy cold IPAs, and it's not, I actually think we've had a cold IPA just about every year on this list. I should have checked that. But we moved on with cold IPA with a discussion around it. I don't think anybody is still like trying to make that lame argument that it's actually an IPL. Instead, now we're talking about, is it actually a West Coast IPA, especially since a lot of West Coast IPAs are using lager yeast these days. Fine, whatever. I don't care. I don't care really the yeast. I don't care the adjunct that you may have put into it. I like the result. What I love about cold IPA is that it tastes like I want a West Coast IPA to taste. I like that crisp, slim, trim structure. And this has that for sure. Dry, just like lean. It's lovely. But the hops, we're getting this like luminosity, just this brightness that's like like it's fun to like come up with like brighter than bright. Like it's like a glow in the dark neon at a rave party kind of like stuff. Glow sticks but it was getting there through fruit flavors, obviously passion fruit, lemon, kiwi, pineapple. We were getting all that, but then also that's nice. But there's a complexity there, a more like hoppier complexity where we're getting the cannabis, mint, green tea, a little even papaya, like those earthier, funkier green notes. Anyway, Cerebro had a couple other high scores that could have been here, but this sort of those, this one won out at the table. Just delicious beer.
A number of strong performers from them. Some really phenomenal beers from Cerebral this year. Number 6, the sixth beer of our 20 so far, goes back to Texas again. Meanwhile, Japanese lager. I think we've got a real Japanese. We've been on a kick. Like we had one last year when that was Freem, right? And then that was this one is when I remember the blind review session when we reviewed this one, because I was actually sitting on that blind review panel. Thankfully, one of the beautiful things about having Paul organize and run reviews, unpack our boxes and everything, is that I don't know what the heck we've even been sent, and sometimes that is a phenomenal benefit. Anyway, the blind panel judges on this beer, who rated it a 98, were actually Stan and me. And so when it came back into the discussion as a top scorer in the Japanese lager thing, we both had a very strong memory of it. And it was still, again, when we tasted it, truly stunning. Clean, crisp, dry, soft complexity, rose petals, green tea, spring-like, flowers on budding on young limbs with a pleasant woody note. Who are the writers that come up with these descriptors, man? What pretentious assholes they are.
All on that.
I know, right? But you can see the Sriracha Ace hops definitely, shine through in this, but they do it in a wonderful way. A little kind of, zestiness and, notes that stick around in that retro nasal. Just really, really fun beer. And I will tell you, it's kind of awesome to see so many good beer. Austin, Texas, you've got Meanwhile, you've got Pint House. They are literally minutes away from each other. And both just firing on all cylinders, making awesome beer. That whole town, I can't wait to go to San Antonio and then make a side trip to Austin, San Antonio for the Craft Brewers Conference, and then pop over to Austin in 2027. That's going to be a good time for us in the beer world. But if you haven't been to Meanwhile, I've been a number of times. That beer garden is spectacular. If you have this feeling that somehow the moment for craft beer is dead, I recommend going to the Meanwhile beer garden, sitting out there on a Saturday or a Sunday, seeing the 5 food trucks that it takes to serve enough food to all of the people in that beer garden, watching families with kids playing on the playground, a musician playing on the outdoor concert area, band shell type thing that they have there. Like, it's a phenomenon. There are lots and lots of people there, and it feels like this European beer garden plucked down in Austin, Texas, and that it's just this slice of life that, where people go as this place to get out of their houses and be around other people and enjoy drinking beer together, eating together, and everything else. And I think that, I love that model, and that's such a great model for the future of craft beer as we're thinking about, how things progress in the future. All right, we're going to go into the 7th beer on the list, but before we do that, give your customers a pleasant surprise with Audacia in your next IPA, brought to you by Indie Hops. This descendant of Strata brings her own flair of catchy lilac and lavender aroma, along with flavors of sweet tart berries and tangy lychee. Audacia loves family reunions with Strata and has even more fun when Citra, Simcoe, Amarillo, and others join the party. Let Audacia loose and watch the smiles spread. Indie Hop's life is short. Let's make it flavorful. And looking for a powerful no-rinse sanitizer that gets the job done fast? Meet SantaClean PAA Pro from 5 Star Chemicals. This EPA-registered PAA-based acid sanitizer is tough on beer stone and perfect for everything from kegs to packaging lines. Available in 2 convenient sizes, it's ideal for coarse sprayers, fermenters, and more. Trusted by pros, designed for performance, SaniClean PAA Pro helps you brew with confidence. Learn more at 5starchemicals.com. Brew better. Brew with 5 Star. And this episode is sponsored by PackTech, delivering craft beer multi-packing you can trust. PackTech's handles are made from 100% recycled plastic and are fully recyclable, helping breweries close the loop and advance the circular economy. With a minimalist design, durable functionality you can rely on, and custom color matching, PackTech helps brands stand out while staying sustainable. Trusted by craft brewers nationwide, they offer a smarter, sustainable way to carry your beer. To learn more, visit packtech-opi.com. That's PAKTECH-OPI.com. All right, Joe. Next up, we go into the world of saisons. Tell us about the next one.
This is out of Seattle Fair Isle. It's their Knitting Circle Season 6 Batch B. And we've had some previous sort of iterations out of the Knitting Circle series. And every time it's just intricate, complex, fun to drink, easy to drink. We've been getting bottles from Fair Isle, I think, just about since they opened during the pandemic. And it always has been fun to explore. And so to kind of see them maybe finally land in this best 20 list is pretty cool. And this one, I love thinking about the story behind this beer, like how it came together eventually. I mean, patiently, I would say. They first brewed it in 2022. It spent time in gin barrels. And it's another gin barrel beer. We've had some of those. I
know.
Yeah, maybe one of those every year too. It seems like
there's a cluster there, right?
Yeah. There's some foraging going on here. There's some fireweed in there, foraged fir tips, and then they made a house-made syrup. I can't remember what the word for this is. There's a special word for this out of Douglas fir cones, and so it's like the taste of the Cascades in a way, but it could be. It could come across as like a gin cocktail, but I was getting more in the white wine zone, semi-dry Riesling, picking up candied lime peels, a little bit of menthol, lemon, white pepper. But despite that kind of interest and complexity, it was still just like lovely to drink. It had a brightness to it, punchy, tart, but not harsh in any way. Super delicate. And it was just really, really fun. So, as picking it apart, I felt like, we had to go foraging for more descriptors. I'm not sure that I really captured that, but that was delicious. Delicious beer. Good job, Fair Isle. Good job, guys. Great.
And bonus points for packaging that in a 750 ml bottle too.
Yeah.
Keeping that format alive and and proving that it is still a viable, vibrant format, and more people should just drink those beers and get over themselves, because they're just some phenomenal beers in that format. And not everything needs to come in a 16-ounce can. Although the next beer on the list does come from that 16-ounce can. So we're going to stay in this we're actually completely departing. We're going into the fully saturated, fully intense, amped up fruit beer. This one's Atrium Batch 500. Atrium out of Louisville, Kentucky. This is when they sent in for this issue. And of course, the blind panel review is later on in this issue. It stood out amongst a crowd. These beers, within the beer world, we love, there are certain people, I shouldn't say we, I don't love turning my nose up at them, but there are some folks that certainly do that for this entire style of beer. And, when it comes to this, we, if it conveys with balance and intention and is an interesting beer that captures flavor and makes an argument for itself, then it doesn't matter what the style is, it can find its way onto this list. And Batch 500 certainly did that. I think it did it by approaching fruit flavor with a deeply layered kind of approach. It wasn't, this is the one puree or the two purees that we used in this. I think there were at least 4 or 5 different, fruits that were used in this beer. But then they layered it in with this kind of cocktail approach to complex flavor, balancing with some spicing, and also thinking about some of that kind of peppery and astringent kind of balance to some of that sweetness. They cranked up that kind of pineapple and coconut a lot alongside some of those almond notes, and capturing that kind of full like noyeau range that amplifies that, but also in that same way that it does it in like a tiki cocktail, it adds the kind of depth to the experience that means it's not just sweet and fruit. And so give you something else to hold on to. This beer was absolutely stunning. And I just want to say congratulations to Spencer and Max, who just this week I saw on the internets actually bought out the original founder, Mark, in Princeton. And I knew Mark. He came to one of our retreats back in 2019 before he launched the brewery. Saw them in Louisville 2 years ago. Super stoked for Spencer and Max, the brewers who've now bought the brewery and are going to continue this kind of legacy of incredible beer coming out of Louisville. Awesome work, guys. Congratulations. The next beer is one that came off of our wild card entries, but it didn't just earn its spot on here. It earned a few other things too.
Yeah, I think one thing that I feel like I enjoy pointing out, maybe, even though the people by now know who won at GABF, we choose our list before that. Like we pick our list, but it comes out after GABF, and so it might look like we're jumping on some kind of bandwagon, and it ain't that way. Although I should say the beer, Ism Chepe Delic out of Long Beach, California. Chepe, by the way, being a nickname for Jose the brewer, in case you're wondering. I'm a Joe, I'm a Jose too, so I'm also Chepe. I relate to this kinda. So Ism, they dropped off some beer, again, it's around the GABF submission deadline. So it's probably the same batch. And what can we say? Like, those judges down in Denver might know what they're doing. They might have pretty good taste.
Yeah, they actually shipped it to Eric at Westbound and Amalgam, posted a wonderful, taped a picture of Phil Joyce of Amalgam's head to the box. And Eric delivered it along with the Westbound and the Amalgam, submissions.
So it's got a little of that Amalgam magic on it too then. Yeah. It won gold medal in the New Zealand IPA category. After we had picked it again, they're the real bandwagon jumpers down there. Anyway, what can you say? It's like it's just a technically excellent IPA, and it's got everything you would want from the kind of IPA that you reach for on the shelf in your hometown every week. But it has more. There's just more depth here. From the hop flavor than other great IPAs. We're talking about the brighter side of lemon lime. We're getting some like sweet woodruff like herbs. Then there's some berries, stone fruit, chopped white onion in the best way. Orange oil is another thing we picked out. It's just bitter enough. The bodies gives the hops a space to express themselves. What Stan says is it's a beer where the intention is showing, and thankfully the execution is right there with it. Excellent beer.
If Ian listens to this, which I imagine he will, I played very dumb when we were talking about this beer at GABF, knowing that we had already chosen it. And then, of course, Stan and I were watching, the awards next to each other, and I literally hugged him after this beer won. No one else needed to know why, but I was just excited. It's just so great to see that, some of these things, like we love to, obviously, taste is subjective, and the tastes of judges are also subjective, but when you aggregate enough data points, certain things definitely rise to the top, and this is just one of those things. Obviously, Chepe Delic's a super delic beer, and so it's pulling in some of that Southern Hemisphere hop as well, or New Zealand hop. Super cool. What a phenomenally good beer. All right, I'm next on the list here, and this one we're going to Poland. The next beer is Pinta Barrel Liberty, and I should say Pinta Barrel because Pinta is the brewery, but then the Pinta Barrel is technically a separate entity, and the Pinta Barrel facility is right behind the actual Pinto Brewery. And I can tell you all of this because I was there last fall and visited the brewery itself, and then came back with some beers, and one of them was this beer, and threw them into our blind panel for the malt issue because it was right around the same time in January. I was there in December, came back, and anyway, long story short, our blind panel gave it a 98, and but really, what a weird, cool thing to have a brewery in Poland steeped in this Baltic porter tradition, but there in Pinta embracing bourbon barrel aged, which, like, think about the challenge of getting bourbon barrels shipped from the United States to Poland just to put beer into American brewers. If you think your barrels are expensive, just wait. Quite a bit goes into it, but I think the thing that our judges loved the most. This is one of those pastry approaches to stout, vanilla, coconut, coffee that they actually barrel aged in a barrel themselves and then added to the beer. Built this thick, full beer that definitely has that kind of sweetness, not ever too bitter, not too roasty, a little bit lower carbonation that definitely helps pull out some of that kind of sweeter character, but it never goes into that. Like it's not quite in that super thick realm that we dabbled in for beer over the last couple of years, or maybe even pre-pandemic. I think things are shifting out into some more drinkable realm as we realize that an arms race of body is not exactly the way for these beers to survive in the future. That alcohol, heat brings a little bit of nuttiness to it. Just a wonderfully balanced beer, and even though it's so big, it does have that strong sweetness. It does feel indulgent, and yet it pulls it all back together in this elegant kind of finish. After that, where do we go next, Joe?
We're going to winter. We're going to Rhode Island. We're going to Providence, Rhode Island. This next beer is Narragansett White Christmas Winter Warmer. And I love talking about this beer, writing about it. I think when you think about seasonal beers these days, I mean, seasonals are still fairly hot, but maybe not what they used to be. And I think we see a lot of these days, even winter seasonals can be IPAs because IPA sells. I would never blame a brewery for doing that. You got to do what sells. But I'm nostalgic for the old school kind of winter warmers, Christmas beers of various types. And if I'm back home in the States around the holidays and I see something like this, I'm going to grab it. And maybe I'm going to be disappointed, but I'm going to grab it for sure. And talking about nostalgia here with this can, we got Bing Crosby on the can even. And it's some sort of arrangement with the Bing Crosby estate that they've done at Narragansett. But what's cool about this though, the beer is great. Like it wouldn't disappoint if you brought this home at all. And that's the beauty of the blind tasting. Like I would have grabbed this can off the shelf as soon as I saw it. But our judges on their tasting, they don't see the can, they don't know any of this stuff. So they loved it. And we're talking about a little like fresh baked pie crust in there. Oh, it's a wit beer, I should say. I think it's a white beer, but it's with cherry, orange peel, ginger. So you kind of know what we're talking about. It's not like a dark spicy. It's a lighter spicy one, but with some bright fruity flavors in there. There's some little ginger, a little bit of alcohol warmth. It's just like got a lot of holiday flavors, but maybe in a different package than you'd expect. And given the nostalgia thing too, it's kind of cool that it also comes from one of America's oldest independent breweries too. So just a really kind of fun beer to show up on this list, then make it through everything I just love. Look, I'm looking at the page right now in the magazine. I just seeing Bing Crosby on there on the can. It just cheers me up a little bit, man. Page 52, if you guys are reading at home. Anyway, lovely beer, and I'm looking forward to some winter warmers this year.
The press pack that they sent along with that had a vinyl record of that song from Bing Crosby.
Oh, that's so cool.
I know, right? A little bit over the top. I will give Narragansett credit. Some of the best PR packages that we ever get, of course, the year. I have so much Jaws paraphernalia now from their whole Jaws tie-in that they did. I've got a enamel pin, with the captain of the boat from Jaws on it. I mean, we've got a little squishy Narragansett can here. But here's a fun story, Joe. 2 weeks ago, I picked up a bunch of retro beer cans. A local collector, actually, someone had passed away, and his family was trying to just unload his old collection of beer cans, 70s, 80s beer cans, some earlier. And and so being the nerd about beer and history and everything else that I am, I they were offering it for free. I'm like, I've got to pick that up. So I went through all the boxes the other day, and I've got old cans of like 70s vintage Narragansett that are in the mix on there, and I absolutely love it. Yeah, just a fun thing. Also, some August Shell cans in there. So this beer kind of history. I love seeing that kind of continuity for Narragansett, and now as back in business, as a revived brand and such a classic American beer brand, and also making interesting craft renditions of styles that are so far outside of what any of the macro brewers would be doing these days. Kudos to them for making beer in such a cool and connected way to the history of beer, but also to pop culture and all the other stuff. Such a fun approach, and killer beer in the package as well. Next up, AleSmith Handgeplukt Creek. This one was 2024 beer that they sent us in 2025. Made with Skedderbeek's cherries that were grown in Southern California on an organic cherry farm down there. And making I just can't say enough about this. In fact, folks can read what our reviewers said about this beer in this issue. They did submit it for blind review in this issue, and it scored so highly in those sessions that we immediately sidelined it into our best in beer tasting. It captures all of those elements that we love about a good, Belgian Creek. Has a little bit of that, obviously that strong Skedderbeek's cherry character that has those deeper, bass tones and lower mid tones that those cherries are just known for, that build this really beautiful, dynamic approach to Creek. But a fair amount of that little cinnamon kind of pie spice element, definitely some nutty almond in the aroma, this kind of full and rounded, and yet also concise. This was not a terribly sweet beer. It was just as sweet as it needed to be in order to, capture this. It's definitely a mixed culture beer, but it's not overly funky. That's not the point of this. The point is to celebrate that, that cherry flavor, and also build it just a bit of lemony tartness in order to kind of, build the fullness of that experience. Not a ton of, aged hop funk or excessive acidity. In fact, the acidity was just very, very tightly controlled in this. A beautiful expression that reminds us that that mixed culture beers, can be made about flavor and not about process. And I think that that's an important piece for us to keep remembering there. Belgian brewers didn't make these beers in order for them to intentionally be funky. That was a side effect of process and time. But when you taste them fresh, this is what they taste like. And what a phenomenal beer from AleSmith. Congratulations to them.
Yeah, when we were tasting it, I didn't know what it was, obviously, but I 100% strongly suspected it was a Peyote Creek. I would never have guessed it was coming out of San Diego. And then later we found out there's a whole story there where they're actually planting the Skedderbeek's cherry trees over there, and this beer is made with their own Skedderbeek's their own San Diego grown Skedderbeek's cherries, which is pretty cool.
All right, we're going to continue on with the list, but before we do that, when it comes to packaging your brew, think Heartprint. the original and digital can printing with 3 locations across North America. The Heartprint team has your back from concept to can. Count on fast turnarounds, no minimums, graphic design support, and rock solid can quality, all on 100% infinitely recyclable cans. Get 10% off your first can order when you mention the Beer and Brewing Podcast. Open an account at heartprint.com or email info@heartprint.com for details. Next up, Joe, we're going to a lager. In fact, we're going to the lager that I have in my glass right now as we are talking. Another one from the Pacific Northwest, showing up strong this year in our list.
Yeah, we're going back to Seattle. And this is Fast Fashion Crop Top. And it is kind of funny sometimes this happens where we get these breweries that are maybe better known for big juicy IPAs or something, and then they land on here with a lager, Pilsner, and that's exciting. And this Pilsner is excellent. I mean, this is a beer that shined at the table for us. We also got to drink some of it in Seattle, but I also really enjoyed there, drinking like the hot pizza and some of the hazies there too. And at the time we were there, now the World Series will be over by the time people hear this, but the Mariners were about to make a run. They were about to make the postseason when we were there, and the whole city was like excited about it. And the guys at Fast Fashion were explaining how people just come to the brewery before games that's not far from the ballpark and just crushing Crop Top before baseball games. And I was like, yeah, I would too, man. That sounds great. And so good story, but none of that is why this beer is here. It's just delicious. For me, this beer takes some more like Bavarian Pilsner route. So it's not, I love the Northern too, like that crisp, bitter taste, but this has the hop bitterness, but it's softer with more hop flavor, aroma, herbal, leafy, floral, minty, noble, but cranked up. You get this just soft, pure malt note there. Some subtle esters to go with it. It just, the texture's lovely. You can appreciate all these nuances of finer points, but you can also just drink it before the ball game and be just as happy. Lovely beer. Congrats, guys, at Fast Fashion.
Oh, so good. Next up on the list, Jackie O's, The Art of Lollygagging. We've been big fans of Jackie O's for many, many years and had so many great barrel-aged beers from them. Of course, I guess it was last fall, actually. It was right before we recorded this Best in Beer issue or episode last year. And went up and did the podcast with Kevin and Woolly Pig, and but I actually stayed in Columbus the night before I went out there, and made a point because I had not been to the Jackie O's in Columbus. I'd been, they obviously they're from Athens, and that's where most of the stuff is. But they had taken over, they built out this really nice brewery in Columbus. I'd just never been there before, so I made a point of popping over there. What a place that is! I mean, just a phenomenal location in Columbus, which gives me some excitement because I understand that the CBC is going to Columbus in 2028, and that's going to be another awesome one. Completely stoked about that. Ohio is phenomenal for craft beer, and I've been to Columbus a few times and enjoyed every time I've gone. Anyway, popped into Jackie O's, really enjoyed the place. Like it's an ambitious location and some phenomenal beer in there. Anyway, this beer, The Art of Lollygagging, a barley wine that they sent to us for the malt issue last year, but it's a barley wine made with Bloody Butcher corn, a collaboration with Fonta Flora, and then of course aged in barrels. What an interesting way to make a barley wine and to throw all these things into the mix, and they all absolutely work. It's a lot of like classic barley wine aromatic notes. This is not a black barley wine. This is definitely a more in that kind of classic color realm, and generally in that kind of classic flavor realm. Vanilla, caramel, almond toffee, sherry. It's full, but it's just not viscous. It has those sweet layers of caramel, treacle, turbinado sugar, Tootsie Roll, Biscoff cookie. I'm just reading what Kay wrote about this because she did a phenomenal job around it. Some sneaky tannins, that pop in there to give it some balance. But it's not, it's not overly sweet. And I think, that's the beautiful thing about it. It just executes all of these flavors in such a beautifully drinkable beer. A bit of a gentle heavyweight, as Stan might say. What an awesome beer. And congrats to Jackie O's for making it onto the list this year. We go west for the next beer, Joe.
Yeah, we're going to Utah, and we know there's some great lagers coming out of Utah. This particular one comes out of Helper, Utah. Population 2,112 out of Helper. There you go. Helper beer. I assume it's Regis and not Regie. I always want to say Regie because I'm a Francophile nerd, but I'm sure it's probably Regis. Helper beer. It's only been around a couple of years. Started by Jaron and Amy Anderson, and Jaron used to work for Kevin Templin at Templin Family, and before that at Red Rock. So he is worked under some of the best. But I love this story. He
worked for and with Kevin Templin for like 12 years.
Yeah, right. And I love this. I love this story that Stan has, where Kevin's nickname for him is Guarantee because he's a guaranteed winner. I can hear that in Kevin's voice. Anyway, and Helper won gold at GABF this year for a German style Pilsner. This is a Helles. And our judges were picking it out. I'm going to just read what they said. Unassuming, simple, balanced, and delightful. If that isn't what you want a Helles to be, I'm not sure I want to drink your Helles. This one's just got lovely like cracker like malt, enough like floral woody hops there to go back and look for more on going on. So I love what Stan writes here, like opening a mixed bag of bagels when a rush of aromas turns into a single flavor. That's cool. I'm not sure if I got that out of this beer, but I just think that's a lovely image and a lovely beer to drink. Yeah, man, congrats to Helper Beer for Regis or Regie, as the case may be.
Let's go with Regis. We're gonna make it the American pronunciation. No, some really incredible beers from them, and popped by and obviously had some of their beers, at GABF, and they're continuing to really make a mark. And Utah obviously has some interesting leg up for smaller beers because that's really all they can sell on draft. And, watching that kind of concentration and this, this kind of group of brewers all challenge each other and learn from each other and make great beers. What a cool little community of brewers there. And, I love watching it happen. They're just a state away. But, I gotta get back out there. We're going to do a podcast with Patrick at Ketos about his Fonio beer. I keep talking about it because that's, it's one of my favorite things this year, as anyone who reads my critics list will know. Cool stuff coming out of Utah. Super stoked. Last year, of course, Offset had a beer on our top 20 beers of 2024. Utah definitely punching above its weight class amongst our best beers of the year. Next up, our 16th out of the 20 beers, again, in no particular order. This one is just, this one's kind of based on like design more than anything, at least that order is. But this one's out of Montreal, Canada. The beer is called Silo. The brewery is called Silo. The beer is called Le Gendre. And this one's Dunkel. Obviously, those who listen to the podcast can go back and listen to, my interview with Jean-Philippe Lalonde from Silo, back from Montreal, May, June-ish. And he's been a lager brewer for a long time in Montreal. Had a smaller brewery in the north of Montreal, and then opened up a beer bar, and then moved and opened up his own brewery, Silo, to make beer for his beer bar and for the brewery. And, but 14 years of making lager in Montreal before a lot of craft beer drinkers really cared that much about drinking lager. There are some some OGs out there in this kind of lager world. Nia's one of them. Built a beautiful little brew house, super clean, hyper clean, just absolutely stunning how clean this brew house is. And in fact, that and Templin are two of the cleanest brew houses that I have ever seen in all of my my visits to brew houses over the years. This one's it's not a complex system, but but it is a direct fire system, and I think that that helps them build some character out of these beers. Anyway, beautiful, modern, simple, nutty. This one scored a 99 with our blind panel, and again, it's that balance. It it has that bread crust flavor, that kind of understated malt with light chocolate and caramel. Starts slightly sweet. It kind of pulls you in with this, like alluring, promise of being sweet. And then it very quickly, pulls the rug out from under you and, builds into this kind of, really tight, dry finish that makes you want to take another sip. This, it captures all of that character of malt that you want, but also just such a succinct end to the beer that pulls you right back in. I absolutely loved it, and I think that the beers that they're making up there and the experience of drinking the beers off of side pull taps in the tap room, if you're in Montreal, make the trek out to Silo. It's not the easiest place to get to if you're in kind of Old Town and the more touristy elements of Montreal. It's out in the Garment District, former industrialized area that's on the rebound. But 100% worth the trip out there to check this one out. Silo Legendre, phenomenal beer of the year. Okay, Joe. Next up, we are going to the West Coast.
Yeah, we're going to south of the Bay Area. We're going to Monterey. We're going to Alvarado Street, and this is Double Cone. It's a West Coast double IPA. And I remember when we tasted this, we just knew. It was almost like that, where some beers, when you're judging, tasting, you're like, okay, I get this. Yeah, okay, this is awesome. And then there's others where you're like, yeah, fuck, yeah, this is great, yeah. And that was this experience for us, I think. It just had, actually, I'm going to do a really quick aside because we just, as we're recording this, just launched course with North Park on hop saturation, fully saturated hop flavor. And I don't want to take away from Alvarado Street to mention that. I'm just saying that's what we got from this beer. Like, it was just like the whole ride of hops. And I think that we've got all these ways now, brewers have all these ways to pack fruit into beers, using hops to pack fruit flavors into beers, using different varieties, different products, different techniques, methods. And that's, to me, not enough. Like, I want more too. We want hops. Like, I want some vegetable. Like, I want some greenness. I want some dank. And this definitely had the dank. We had some juniper there, dandelion. We were getting white pepper and menthol, but also, yeah, we're getting fresh, like mango, raspberry. There was the peach rings, ruby red grapefruit. This is all the stuff we were picking out. And it was just super fun to do it, but also, I mean, just really fun to drink. And I mean, God, I think West Coast double IPA is just about one of my favorite styles because it's got everything I like at a West Coast with a bit of extra naughty. And this was just a joy to have at the table. And here it is, and our best 20.
What a great beer. And I hated you all for wanting to put this on our list of top 20 beers because I don't like bringing in IPAs on the wild card beers. And we did it already with a different, anyway. But I still couldn't argue with you. I couldn't argue with you.
It kind of makes sense, right? In a way, because we know when they're bringing in stuff for a GABF, then it's going to be fresh. And they've timed their brewing to like be the freshest batch possible. And that may not work out as well for our IPA issue. But we really, it should be much harder to crack this 20 if you haven't been in the IPA issue. Yeah.
Our IPA issue deadline aligns with World Beer Cup. So there should not be
no excuse then. Yeah.
Anyway, like I say, I want all of our IPAs on these lists, in theory, to come from top scores in our IPA issue. And yet, there are occasional beers here on the, that come in as wild cards that, we just can't deny. And that's one of them. This beer, however, the next beer on our list is one that scored well in our lager issue. And I'm going to open one right now and pour it for myself. I think you could hear that, right?
Yeah, I could hear it.
Oh, man. This one's Crowner Kolsch from El Segundo. You may be more familiar with El Segundo for, beers like Steve Austin Broken Skull. They are definitely more well-known, I think, for their IPAs in Southern California and, that connection with branded West Coast IPA. However, we've got an IPA, a primary IPA brewer in here with a lager. We've got another IPA brewer in here with a Kolsch. What is it with all these IPA brewers, Joe, who are also phenomenal lager and lagered ale brewers here? Because while Kolsch isn't a lager, it is lagered. Yeah,
I mean, great brewers are great brewers, man. They must be good at what they do.
We think about these beers in such minimalist terms, in this kind of reductionist American kind of context for them. But, when you drink Kolsch, you drink, even, Bavarian lager, it's not the minimalist thing that some of these kind of characters end up being. And I think that this El Segundo take with Crowner Kolsch is a good example of that. Like, it has some character to it. It is still very light and drinkable, and yet it's not a minimalist approach by any stretch. A little bit of dried herbs, some cracker-like malt, maybe a bigger kind of like mid-tone than a lot. It's not full, but it's maybe semi-full. And yet it still has this kind of like non-negotiable drinkability that everyone expects out of Kolsch, because, you don't judge Kolsch by the first glass. You don't judge it by the second or the third or the fourth. Maybe you start judging it by the seventh, eighth, maybe the ninth, 250 milliliter, stanga that you drink. Then you can start to, make a proper judgment about it. But, as they keep making those marks on your decal, as they keep bringing out stanga after stanga, that's when you can start to build a judgment around this. And so to make that perfect kind of Kolsch, it has to have some flavor. It has to have some character to it. It also has to have that kind of drinkability. If it's absolutely nothing, then it just feels boring. And what's the whole point of that? And so this one does not. It definitely has that kind of almost maybe I wouldn't say it's, maybe it's a little bit of banana, like a very light banana bread, but it's only the faintest light of banana bread. And that, when I say banana, it makes it feel like Weizenbach or something like that. And it's nowhere close to that, but it has this kind of, it's a fruity character, but it's not that same kind of just, ultra minimalist, super thin kind of, fruit character. It feels like it has some meatiness behind it. Anyway, beautiful beer. Wonderful kind of herbal character to it, and yet also just eminently drinkable, and earned its way into our list with our blind panel scored at a 98, and beer of the year.
Yeah,
one of the beers of the year.
And this one reminds me that we haven't talked about recipes either, because we are going to have a recipe for this on the website about the time we drop the issue, about the time you can hear this podcast. That'll be an all-access recipe for our all-access subscribers. Also, we're going to have one of those for Fast Fashion Crop Top, and in the magazine, so you don't even have to be an all-access subscriber, just a subscriber. We've got recipes for a Pinta Barrel Liberty and for the last beer that we're going to talk about. But first, we got another one that I'm going to get to here. And it's from Anaheim, California, from Radiant Beer, and the beer is called Drawn to Black. It is a Baltic Porter. Jamie knows I have a thing for Polish porter. I love big Polish Baltic porters. I'm glad. I think more American brewers have moved away from that sort of lighter Baltic porter we used to see a lot. It was like 6-7%. But we're going now for these like bigger gravities, and I think that's part of the fun of Baltic porter. But it's also got this like cool smoothness to it, and that is what Drawn to Black has. This it's got this weight. You can feel it, but it is still surprisingly easy to drink because of this just smooth, dark flavors to it. Not a lot of roast. There's like these cooler chocolate tones is how I think about it. It's big and it's bold, but it's round. It's polished. It was just a lovely beer to drink. And when, again, at the table, when we were tasting it, I'm like, this could be Polish. Like, I actually think it is. Like, I think this is a Polish porter. And I thought maybe it was one of the pintas that Jamie had brought back. I didn't know what it was. Doesn't matter. It ticked every box I could have wanted out of it. And we were picking out dark chocolate and treacle and fig, and it just had this like plushness to it. It was just something you want to like. It's like an old sofa you don't want to get rid of because it just swallows you, and you take the best naps in it. That's what this beer was. Delightful.
I did some research on Polish Baltic porter, obviously last December in Poland, and of course you turned me on to Widawa and Wojtek, and when I was in Wrocław, Poland, did get Greg at Stuma he offered to drive me out, and we went out and visited Wojtek, got to see Widawa in person, and that, of course, their barrel-aged Baltic porter is on your personal critics list, which people will hear about more next week on that episode. And then, of course, in the competition, the Craft Roku competition in Poland, there are 4 Baltic porter categories in their competition. And I love it because that's the way it should be, right? In America, we've got how many IPA categories? A literal fuck ton of IPA categories because, yes, American IPA is different than West Coast IPA. And then we've got all of the strengths. And then we, yada, yada. We've got hazy, juicy. And then we've got, we have so many IPA categories because, American brewers make a lot of IPAs. Poland, they make a good amount of Baltic porters. There's also multiple Grodziska categories in the Polish competition, as there should be, right? And so I think this is the thing, like all beers should be local, and it should speak to, the competitions should speak to the beers that people make and the places where they make them. And that is the beautiful thing. When we went, the brewers like, oh, don't, you foreign judges, you're going to pick another Baltic porter for the best beer this year. And, they kept, they were definitely, there was some politicking going on in that competition. Anyway, drank a lot of them, drank a number of Baltic porters, even in the best show round of that competition. This Radiant porter spoke to me in that the kind of urgency that it embodied, that it hits with those big flavors, and then it finds a way after a couple of seconds of just laying it on thick, it just pulls it all back so fast. Like there was this interesting ledge in this beer where it just boom, 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 big, 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 and then pow, it just drops off. And it's like this kind of drinkability in a beer that's that big, that is crazy, that is unnatural, that should be illegal. It's so good. And, and I think that's what spoke to me about this Radiant Baltic porter. I don't know how they did it, but I am thoroughly impressed and, love it to death. Anyway.
Jamie, I think you got to take us to America's new craft beer hotbed.
Who would have thought that America's biggest hazy IPA hotbed is Omaha and Lincoln, Nebraska? Okay. I'm throwing it out there. I'm just going to make the argument here. Okay. I think, when you look at it in terms of metals, I think it started with cross strain and the double dry hopped fairy nectar. Of course, cross strain has been in our best picks of the year, like 3 times in the past, just perennial winners here, an incredible brewery, but they got things started. I think that was 2018 when they kicked it off and won a medal for, the double dry hopped fairy nectar. Well, Corn Coast and Lumen and Corn Coast have both kind of picked up, all breweries here in Lincoln and Omaha, Nebraska. All 3 of them have won medals in hazy IPA, and Corn Coast has won multiples in different, categories in the hazy IPA kind of world, from double, single, whatever, In fact, Corn Coast has won 3 GABF medals in various hazy IPA categories. Did I know this? When our judges, blind judges, judged Share the Stoke? No, I did not know this. Did I know this even after the issue came out? No, I should have done the research on this. I did not do the research. As I was looking, and when I saw him win another medal at GABF this year, I was like, okay, well, they're in our beers of the year. I went up and looked at like, what the fuck? They have won. This is their 3rd medal in a hazy IPA category, from Lincoln, Nebraska.
This is not a hazy IPA.
No.
I mean, it's just like Crossdrain has come in and won 3 different styles, or made it into our list with 3 different styles. This is also not a hazy IPA.
No, this is not a hazy IPA, because they can, like all IPA brewers, right? If you can brew one, you can brew them all well. This is a West Coast Pils of all things. From a medal-winning hazy IPA brewer that's won now 3 medals in that hazy IPA category. Anyway, the beer's Corn Coast, Share the Stoke. This is their West Coast Pils. I'm going to make the drive out to Lincoln and Omaha this year and do some podcasts out there, because it is driving distance from where I am, and I got to get to the bottom of what's going on in that part of Nebraska, because what a cool little kind of center of awesome brewing. Anyway, Share the Stoke, West Coast Pils from this brewery that has won so many medals in hazy IPA categories. But they obviously understand how to use hops, and that's exactly what they do here. They capture, this, this really, it's like Citra Mosaic. And, I think those Citra Mosaic West Coast Pils can come off, depending on how they're done, they can come off as just, same. There's a lot that are kind of all in that similar vein. This one picks up that citrus, but it also kind of bends that citrus towards, lychee rather than like lemon lime or orange. It captures, it's got some of the, some stone fruit character in there too. And, that helps kind of give a roundness to some of that, that citrus edge, a little bit of bitterness, obviously, little bit of sulfur, a little bit of character in there to give it some structure. An incredible beer, just really, really stunning, and and also some really nice people. And there's a recipe for this one in the magazine for folks that want to try to make it themselves. Also some Simcoe, in here along, there for on the bittering side, on the hot side for it, and so it's got some West Coast IPA rootsy kind of hopping on the hot side, and then dry, just goes deep on Citra, Simcoe, Mosaic, on Whirlpool and in the dry hop. Super cool beer. And I can't wait to learn more from Corn Coast, because, whatever they're doing really, really well out there. Some cool stuff.
Well, we did it. That's 20.
That's 20 beers. We've been talking for a little while. We're going to have to burn through these Reader's Choice categories of the magazine so we can get out of here in time and not bore people to tears as they're listening to us. But I mean, who are we kidding? You guys aren't bored. You guys get to listen to us talk about the beers that we love and some of the best beers that are out there these days. In terms of Reader's Choice methodology, this is what I like to call a popularity contest. I would love, there are other things in our Best in Beer issue that are certainly not, obviously, our blind judges. That is not a popularity contest. That is purely merit-based, based on the beer in the glass as they drink it. As we do the same kind of thing through our editor's picks, tasting these beers blind in a room with the 4 of us, Joe, Stan, Kate, and I. That does not matter, and all the other factors don't matter. All that matters is what's in the glass. And so when it comes to reader survey, we send it out to you guys vote, and that kind of is just a gauge on who's popular and why and where. And there's some interesting kind of focuses and regionality, because some places get out the vote a little bit better than others. I would say that this is highly unscientific, but yet a gauge on temperature, and folks that are hot and get their audience motivated to get out and vote, they do well. And yet also, again, over time, things work out. I found some interesting stuff out through this, and it's been educational for me. There were brewers where I was like, oh, I am sure that someone's packing the vote, because we do actually go through and even manually review all of the votes. If someone votes just for one thing in one category, or say if they vote for a brewery, across every category and just Christmas tree it for a brewery and they don't look like real votes, they just look like spam, boom, we kick the vote, not legitimate. And, yes, you're going to vote for a brewer as the best Saison brewer, and yet they've never brewed a Saison. Those votes, that's robo vote. No thanks. So we do go through the data and we clean it up, make sure that these at least are legitimate human beings answering this survey in a reasonable way, as we would expect a human to do, with some diversity and different things, and not just kind of high pointing certain votes. Anyway, so we put all that work in, and it's a lot of manual work, because the other thing that we do is that we do not have multiple choices here. We allow people to enter free text, and what that means is that even though we give people instructions, say list the brewery name first and then the beer name, people don't do that. And also, there's we end up with things like, people putting in entry for, say, 3 Floyds. But guess what? You can write 3 Floyds with a number 3. You can write it as THREE. All of these, if you're trying to sort the data without the benefit of, things. Anyway, we spend a lot of time. We spend days and days manually going through all of this data to make sure it's clean and that we're making sure we're getting legitimate votes out here. So that's the work that goes into the reader's choice. But
Jamie, how was our turnout this year compared to previous years?
Biggest turnout we've ever seen.
Yes.
Yeah, about 20%, 15-ish% higher than we have ever seen before.
Wow, that's awesome.
It was phenomenal to see so many folks get out and vote in the reader survey this year. And I can only chalk that up to more breweries putting it out there on their own socials, putting out there in their own emails, and working on their own get out the vote campaigns, which obviously have worked for some breweries in this list, and not just work for those breweries. We also, I think if you really pour through the data, you can look at it and see lift for other breweries in the same geographical area of some of those breweries that might have, and so I won't spoil it for everybody by telling them what those things are, but I think you will see some of that through the data here. And then on the flip side, there are somewhere it's like, oh my gosh, I bet that brewery packed the votes. And I went through and looked at them like, wait a second, there's a brewery here in our top, beers, or Reader's Choice for, top 25 beers of the year, where they got onto that list because they were people's second votes. They were not people's first vote. This was not like people, like them robo voting and trying to pack the voting box. There were legitimate answers where this brewery was the second out of the 5 beers, that they were listing on their list. Like, that's impressive. And so when, this is also a way for us to see who's bubbling up in certain areas, who is coming up and making a mark in their own geographical area that we may not, understand quite in that same kind of way, because I am not, say, in Southern California at a beer store shopping for beer in the way that some other people are, or,
those votes are still,
Vermont.
Those votes are still legitimate. And I think we're all homers to some degree, right? And we have to try to not be homers because of what we do. But the people voting don't have to worry about that. Nobody else has to worry about that. But the people who care enough to vote in our Reader's Choice poll are generally people who really know great beer. And so if they're voting for another brewery in their city, it's because it's a great brewery. So I think it's completely legitimate to sometimes vote for, maybe you're there to vote because A brewery told you to get in there and vote, but you're also going to think about B and C brewery on the other side of town that you love, and you're going to vote for them too. That's totally cool. I think it's fine.
Absolutely. Like I said, this is we're gauging the temperature here, and if people are hot on a brewery, then they're hot on a brewery, and we want to know it. Anyway, let's start this off with your favorite breweries. You voted, we tallied. Here are your favorite breweries broken down into categories by volume brewed. Let's start with small breweries, fewer than 5,000 barrels a year. In the number 10 spot out of Portland, Oregon, Brewhouse. And the number 9 spot out of Seattle, Floodland. The number 8 spot, a brewery that I wasn't as familiar with, but now I am, out of Sacramento, California, Geist House. And the number 7 spot from Torrance, California, Absolution. And the number 6 spot, Kansas City, Missouri's BKS Artisan Ales. Why don't you finish this list off, Joe?
Yeah, well, speaking of coming out strong in Kansas City, at number 5, we got Alma Mater. At number 4, out of Downers Grove, Illinois, we have Goldfinger. At number 3, San Diego's North Park. At number 2, we have Highland Park out of Los Angeles. And your number 1 favorite small brewery, fewer than 5,000 barrels a year, is Green Cheek out of Orange, California.
If you want to learn about that magic, go to the beerandbrewing.com video education platform. Check out that video that we recorded with Evan from Green Cheek. And while you're at it, also check out the video that we just released, video class we just released with Kelsey of North Park from that number 3 spot. And okay, we'll go to small regional breweries in the number 10 spot, Hill Farmstead in the number 9 spot. Another one we have a video class with, Westbound and Down from Erie, Colorado. The number 8 spot, Humble Sea out of Santa Cruz, California. The number 7 spot, Ghost Town out of Oakland. And number 6, Meanwhile, from Austin.
At number 5, out of Frisco, Colorado, we have Outer Range. Number 4, Alvarado Street in Monterey, California. At number 3, from Asheville, North Carolina, we have Burial Beer. At number 2, Chicago's Hop Butcher for the World. And your number 1 small regional favorite brewery is Austin's Pint House.
Those are breweries between 5,000 and 25,000 barrels a year. Now the mid-sized regional breweries, these are 25,000 to 100,000 barrels per year. And I should note, these lists go 20 deep. We're only reading the top 10 because you should subscribe to the magazine and go read it, all the full list there. In the 10 spot, Maine Beer out of Freeport, Maine. The number 9 spot, Half Acre out of Chicago. And the number 8 spot, Toppling Goliath from Decorah, Iowa. Number 7, Revolution from Chicago. Number 6 is Other Half from Brooklyn, New York.
All right, get ready for some Oregon. We got at number 5, we got Fort George from Astoria, Oregon. At number 4, Breakside from Portland, Oregon. And number 3, we have Freem in Hood River, Oregon. And then number 2, we got Treehouse from Charlton, Massachusetts, not Oregon. Also, number 1 favorite mid-sized regional brewery. That's 25,000 to 100,000 barrels a year. We have Russian River out of Windsor in Santa Cruz, California.
Quite a legacy with that one. And so now in the large breweries, 100,000 plus barrels a year. In the number 10 spot, Boulevard from Kansas City. The number 9 spot, New Belgium from here in Fort Collins. Number 8, Founders out of Grand Rapids. Number 7, Odell out of Fort Collins. Number 6, Stone out of Escondido, California.
At number 5, Kalamazoo, Michigan, we have Bell's. Number 4, Allagash out of Portland, Maine. At number 3, Firestone Walker in Paso Robles, California. At number 2, out of New Glarus, Wisconsin, we have New Glarus. And your number 1 large brewery, again, this year is Sierra Nevada out of Chico, California.
No surprise there. They win this every single year. But New Glarus posing like that is a strong showing from New Glarus, and they are nipping at the heels right there. Fun to see it, and that's the best performance we've seen from New Glarus in that list, I think, ever. Next, we're going to pivot to who brews it best. Of course, when we ask just by size, that tells us one thing, but we also want to know who brews in specific styles. Like maybe we'll start with our favorite Abbey style brewer. And again, these lists are 20 deep, and we're only going to share our top 10 with you. So, so maybe we'll start with Abbey style brewer in the number 10 spot, Boulevard, the number 9 spot, Monkless, and the number 8 spot, Duvel. Rochefort in the number 7 spot, Allagash in the number 6 spot, Lost Abbey at number 5, Westmalle at number 4, Westvleteren in the number 3 spot, Chimay in number 2, and in the number 1 spot, yet again this year, out of Watou, Belgium, St. Bernardus. Joe, why don't you share the favorite sour or wild ale brewers?
Yeah, at number 10, we got Great Notion. Number 9, The Brewery. That's Bruery. Number 8, Santa Darius. At number 7, Floodland. Number 6, Burial. At number 5, Alvarado Street. Number 4, Side Project. Number 3, Cantillon. 2 is De Garde out of Oregon. And number 1 is your favorite sour Wild Ale brewer is Jester King out of Austin.
Austin, Texas, showing up big in this list this year. Let's talk about favorite pale ale brewer. The number 10 spot, New Glarus. Number 9, Green Cheek. Number 8, Burial. Number 7, Westbound and Down. Number 6, Highland Park. Number 5, Half Acre with that good old Daisy Cutter. Number 4, Cellar Maker. Number 3, Hop Butcher. Number 2 is Breakside. And of course, in the number 1 spot, it's not even close. I think they got as many votes as the next 18 breweries combined on this list. Sierra Nevada, of course. Why don't you go through their top 10 of favorite stout or porter brewers, Joe?
All right. So number 10, North Coast. Number 9, Left Hand. Number 8, Highland Park. Number 7, Goose Island. Number 6, Founders. Your number 5 favorite stout or porter brewer is Fort George. And number 4, Deschutes. Number 3, Side Project. Number 2, Burial, appearing on several of these lists. And your number 1 favorite stout or porter brewer is Guinness.
If the Guinness folks are listening, get in touch with me. I've got lots of trophies for you that have not been delivered over the years. They are building up here in the office, so just send me an email. We would love to get you these trophies that you win year after year after year after year. Well, let's talk about favorite Saison brewer. In the number 10 spot, Burial, as you mentioned, showing up on a lot of these lists. Number 9, Side Project. Number 8, who is also on that stout list. Number 8 was out of Chicago. Number 7, Cellar West out of Boulder. Number 6, Jester King. Number 5, Boulevard. Number 4, Fair Isle, who you know is already one of our top 20 beers of this year. And the number 3 spot, also from Seattle, Floodland. The number 2 spot, Sante Adarius. And in the number 1 spot, again this year, Brasserie DuPont. Joe, let's go through lagers.
Yeah. All right. So your number 10 favorite lager brewer is Burial. Number 9, Wondrous. Number 8, Jamie, where is Wondrous?
Bay Area.
All right, Bay Area, Wondrous.
East Bay.
All right. So they have first time popping into this list this year. Wayfinder, number 8. Number 7, Freem. Number 6, Schilling Beer. Your number 5 favorite lager brewer is Highland Park out of LA. Your number 4 is Heater Allen in Gold Dot. Number 3, Geisthaus, popping into the list for the first time.
Debuting at number 3.
Impressive. So there's a lot for their following down there. Number 2, Bierstadt Lagerhaus, bumped from the top spot by number 1, Goldfinger out of Chicago area.
Incredible. Great lager brewers there, all of them. Let's talk about favorite hazy IPA brewer. In the number 10 spot, North Park. In the number 9 spot, Monkish. Number 8, Humble Sea. Number 7 out of Oregon, Brewhouse. Number 6, Green Cheek. Number 5, Burial. Number 4, BKS. Number 3, Treehouse. Dropping down a couple places this year from the number 1 spot they were in last year. And the number 2 spot, Hop Butcher. And number 1 in hazy IPA out of Austin, Texas, Pint House. All right, Joe, finish us off with favorite American or West Coast IPA brewer.
All right, at number 10, got Breakside. At number 9, Burial. At number 8, North Park. At number 7, Highland Park. Number 6, Sierra Nevada. At number 5, Green Cheek. Number 4, Hop Butcher. At number 3, Absolution, appearing on the list. Number 2, Pint House, jumping up from number 17 last year. And your number 1 favorite American or West Coast IPA brewer is Russian River.
Good stuff. Okay, let's talk about favorite beer cities. And, again, we'll talk about our top 10 here in the U.S. cities. Number 10, San Francisco Bay Area. That encompasses East Bay and San Francisco itself. In the number 9 spot, Portland, Maine. Number 8, Kansas City, Missouri. Number 7, Seattle, Washington. Number 6, Asheville, North Carolina. Number 5, Portland, Oregon. Number 4, San Diego, California. Number 3, Denver, Colorado. Number 2, Austin, Texas. Again, showing up big, jumping up from 12 last year to 2 this year. That tells you something about our voters. But in the number 1 spot this year, Chicago, Illinois. What are our top 10 international cities, Joe?
Yeah, this is a fun list. There's a couple new, well, I'll get to the list. And the top 4 is still the top 4, but let's go down to number 10, which is Amsterdam. Number 9, Berlin. I'm popping on the list. I think it's an interesting pick. Having lived there, I'm not sure I would put it in my top 10, but it is great. It's a fun city to drink beer in for sure. Number 8, Tokyo. I love that this is on the list. Number 7, Bamberg. Number 6, Copenhagen. Number 5 is Dublin, moving up a couple of spots. And then number 4 is London. Number 3 is Prague. Number 2 is Brussels, and number 1 is Munich. And that's the same top 2 as last year, and the same 3 and 4. They just swapped spots as last year. So it seems like we have almost a near consensus there on top 4 beer cities in the world.
Tokyo has been on this list before, then it wasn't for like the last 2 years, and now it's back again. Fun to see that it's not just Europe anymore, people. But where are our Brazilian voters? There's got to be other voters and listeners out there that can represent for their own places that aren't necessarily just these spots in Europe. Anyway, maybe next year, maybe we'll see an influx of other beer cities popping onto this list, because there are many more great beer cities in the world. Let's talk about your favorite beer bars. And again, this list is 20 deep. We're going to talk about the top 10 and the number 10 spot, Beer Mongers from Portland, Oregon, and the number 9 spot, Monk's Cafe out of Philly. Number 8 spot, one of my personal favorite places, the Brick Store Pub in Atlanta. Number 7, Oak and Steel in Kansas City. Kansas City showing up big for their folks. In the number 6 spot, The Whale, Asheville and Greenville and a few other places out there. And why don't you read the top 5, Joe?
Sure. Number 5, we got the Beer Temple in Chicago. Number 4, Hop Leaf in Chicago. At number 3, another Chicago area, Orange and Brew in Downers Grove. Number 2, we have San Francisco's Toronado. And a new number 1, jumping up from number 10 last year, from Eugene, Oregon, we have A Beer Club.
A Beer Club out of Eugene, Oregon. Crazy cool to see that. They were on the list last year and we're stoked. And man, they got out the vote this year. And that brings us to our readers' top 25 beers of 2025. Just to be pedantic about it, we're only going to read the top 20 to stick with the theme, and also make sure that you go and read the magazine so you can get that full list. And then we will trade these off 5 by 5, starting off with number 20, Lawson's Finest Sip of Sunshine. Number 19, Outer Range in the Steep. Number 18, Block 15's Sticky Hands. Number 17, New Glarus Spotted Cow. Number 16 is Breakside IPA.
Number 15, we have Russian River Blind Pig. Number 14, Guinness Stout. 13, we have Goldfinger's Original Lager. 12, we have Hop Butcher Grid. And at number 11, we have Bierstat's Slow Pour Pills.
In the number 10 spot, Bell's Two-Hearted IPA. In the number 9 spot, a former craft beer brewing beer of the year, Pint House Training Binds. Number 8, Sierra Nevada Celebration. Not a surprise there. In the number 7 spot, North Park Hop Foo. Number 6, Alvarado Street Mai Tai PA.
Oh, I get to do the top 5 on this one. This is fun. I feel I'm just rambling to build a little more anticipation. At number 5, we have Highland Park's Timbo Pills. At number 4, a low ranking for this one compared to past years. Sierra Nevada Pale Ale. Popping in at number 3, we have the 405 IPA from Absolution.
And this one was one that I had real questions about. And I just want to tell you, Joe, I looked at all of the votes for this beer and can confirm they were, generally speaking, most people's second vote of very thorough answers. What a cool thing to see them come out and just pop into the list at this with very, very legitimate votes. I don't know what they've done to get that beer out there and into more hands and into more voters, but whatever they're doing, it's working. So cool to see it.
Yeah, for sure. And now this is where things are going to get interesting. Because,
number 2.
Yeah, the number 2 beer in the top 25 is Russian River's Pliny the Elder. And that leaves number 1, our new number 1, which is Pint House Electric Jellyfish.
What are you talking about, Joe? Pint House Electric Jellyfish, our number 1 beer as voted on by the readers of Craft Beer and Brewing. Kudos to the Pint House team for getting the vote out in the Austin area. I think you can see the reverberations of that as where other brewers in their area like Meanwhile and Jester King and others have also shown up in these lists. But man, people came out to vote for Pint House. And I mean, Electric Jellyfish, I think you can argue, is potentially one of the most important hazy IPAs in the country. And, it has become a phenomenon for them. So pretty awesome to see a show.
Delicious beer. I hope Joe Moorfield now gets to call Vinny and say, it's official. According to the readers of Craft Beer and Brewing, my beer is better than Pliny the Elder. There you go.
This year. This year. Yeah. There's always next year. And, if I know a little bit about the competitive nature of some of these folks, we'll see where that goes. Anyway, that brings it to a close. What an episode. Such amazing beers. Thank you to all of our readers that have voted. Thanks to all of our blind judges who have judged beers throughout the year. And thanks to you, Joe and Stan and Kate, for working so hard. And of course, thanks to Paul Hutchings, our review coordinator, who keeps this review ship running all year long and keeps all of these beers coming in, processed, out there to our blind review panel, running those review panels and making it all happen, because literally we just couldn't do it without all of the people that feed into this. G&D Chiller's Elite 290 series chiller uses propane as a natural refrigerant with extremely low global warming potential. Berkeley Yeast Dry Tropics London delivers juicy character of a top-tier London ale strain with a burst of thiols. Old Orchard is your go-to source for fruit-forward ingredients from some of the biggest names in the craft brewing landscape. Give your customers a pleasant surprise with Audacia from Indie Hops in your next IPA. Looking for a powerful no-rinse sanitizer that gets the job done fast? Meet SantaClean PAA Pro from 5 Star Chemicals. PackTech offers a smarter, sustainable way to carry your beer, and get 10% off your first can order from Heartprint when you mention the Craft Beer and Brewing podcast. Of course, if you've enjoyed this episode, if you felt frustrated by this episode, if you feel like we should have told you all of the things in all of the reader survey categories, go to beerandbrewing.com, click on that subscribe button, become a subscriber to Craft Beer and Brewing magazine. And I promise you, if you subscribe, we will keep bringing you the heat, the awesomeness, all of the great perspectives from the best brewers working around the world today, that'll help influence your brewing and your beer appreciation and all of those other things. Joe, any final words before we sign off here?
Just that we got the best job in the world, and we couldn't do it without all the sponsors. We couldn't do it without all the subscribers. We couldn't do it without the podcast listeners, and we couldn't do it without the brewers who are sending in beer. It's a pure joy. And I'm looking forward to the next year for the magazine too, because it's not the easiest times for print media, just like it's not the easiest times for the brewing industry. But guess what? We are not becoming less substantive next year. We are planning some really cool stuff, and we're excited about it. And subscribe now, and you're still going to get this winter issue too.
That's true. We're taking a deep look at how to make the print thing that we do more valuable to you. And I think we've got some cool things ahead and a cool process, I think, to get there and figure out what it is that's going to make that even better. If you've got some ideas, shoot me an email, jbogner, JBOGNER at beerandbrewing.com. Throw me some ideas. You can throw Joe some ideas. Joe Stang, JSTANGE at beerandbrewing.com. We both answer our own emails. Like we're just like
sometimes regret it. So take some time. Yeah.
Drop us an email, share your thoughts. Hey, well, how can we do this better? What do you need? What do you need? Because we're here for you. Tell us what you think. Hope you've enjoyed this episode. We'll be back next week with the Critics List edition of the podcast, where Joe, Stan, and Kate all share their personal critics lists. And I share a few tidbits in there, but I mostly just get to editorialize based on what they say. Another one of our favorite years of the year. And cheers.
Cheers.
This podcast has been brought to you by Craft Beer and Brewing Magazine for those who love to make and drink great beer. To learn more or to subscribe, visit beerandbrewing.com or find us on social media at Craft Beer Brew.